What's going on, everybody? Cryo here. Today we're looking at how I personally like to tank Spires of Ascension during Shadowlands Season 1 of Mythic Plus with the Prideful affix. Before we begin, I invite you to take a look at my pull-by-pull mechanics video first. There you can see exactly what each mob of every pack does in deeper detail. This video is more about the pulls and route itself, so let's get it. These route imports are available for everyone's use, and you can find them on my website, link to that down below. The great thing about this dungeon, the pulls do not change up drastically from week to week. There are some minor affix niches, but I do my best to explain them via the MDT notes. The only major change comes at the end, and this is dependent on whether or not your group can skip group 27. Of course, every group can do this with the help of Invispot, but if you are pugging without comms, this may not always be the case. Now this first pull usually goes one of two ways. For most weeks, double pulling and then LOSing is the bread and butter. This will gather up both groups nicely and allow for massive AoE cleave. As you see here, I was slow on the rotate and my druid was cleaved by the vanguard. Tanks, you want to be sure to never face them towards your party members. Interrupt priorities here will be Dark Lashes and Forsworn Doctrine. The second option usually occurs during Inspiring weeks. The best way is to just CC off the rip, and then continue with your first large pull. If your group is competent with interrupts, feel free to grab the Goliath as well. The only time I do not recommend this is bolstering weeks. I usually like to leave the Goliath as a separate pull because it's a great time to let some CDs come back up, should the group need to recuperate. The next pack that warrants discussion is just before the first boss. Here I always prefer to CC the mender of the pack, tag the Goliath, and then LOS. You will need some interrupts along the way, but once it's all gathered up, focus down the Goliath while even cleaving everything else. This will spawn a Prideful. As for the CC'd Mender, drag it into the Prideful and passively cleave it down. It does little melee damage to the tank, and as long as your group interrupts its heal, all is well. The reason I do it this way is to maximize Prideful uptime on the boss. I actually dislike this boss very much so. The overhead smash seems like a mechanic that is avoidable, but it's not. You can be clear across the map and it still hits you, or you can be right underneath it and it misses. I don't personally get it. If you guys know something that I don't, feel free to let me know in the comment sections down below. I still recommend tanking the two together, just be sure no melee players are caught in front. Once the boss is defeated, head to the right first. You can pull all 6 cats or split this pull up. All depends on your group's CC and your tank's ability to kite. Trees, Ring of Peace, Frost Nova, Binding Shot, all are great tools and will become your best friends. While kiting, make your way back towards the boss's room since we will be traveling in the other direction anyways. These skirmishers are pesky. You will always want to pull them and then LOS. Are you sensing a theme yet? Once they are all grouped up, do everything you can to keep them from leaping away. Do not underestimate this pack of ether divers. The dot they leave behind is extremely nasty. You should have Prideful going into this, so DPS make sure you make quick work of them. Locking this group down with AoE silences and stuns goes a long way. I will always advocate for CC on this pack. The skirmishers will continuously hurl and deal massive damage, especially on fortified weeks, so CCing them is a big help. If your group has more CC, feel free to lock down the Inquisitor as well. Normally, I will pull the squad leader with the Stealth Claw, but my sigil missed, so here we are. Keep in mind, when fighting the skirmishers, they tend to disengage away from their main focus, so tanks, be sure to aim them at a wall if possible, but definitely make sure you do not aim them towards, let's say, sanguine pools. If you are a Kyrian, do not forget to snag this spear. It will be a big help later on. Fun fact about the spears in here, you do not lose them if you die, unlike the weapons in the Necrotic Wake. This pack can be very scary and it spawns Prideful. Do your best to keep the cats close together and slowed, allowing the tank to kite more comfortably. But focus down the Predator. Having this alive during Prideful is very annoying. There are several different ways to pull this next pack. You may opt into handling just the Ether Divers, in which if you taunt the furthest one away from the Goliath, you will only pull the Serpent. But with Prideful, it may be a waste. While fighting this pack, be cautious of the patrol and move back if needed. Now I'm not sure why I speared here, maybe we talked about it beforehand, but I prefer to use the spear on the next pack. It's a bit more deadly. This group does have particularly good CC, so either way works. As mentioned, lock down as many mobs as you can. Don't be like me and break CC early. Handle the squad leader first, and then it's best to deal with the Stealth Claw and Ether Diver for the tank's sake, and after that it doesn't matter. Minimize the amount of cooldowns you use on this Prideful since we are going right into the boss after. With that said, do not make your healer struggle to keep you alive. Using something like Combustion here is totally reasonable, albeit not for the mage. While tanking this boss, I highly encourage you to try it this way if you're not doing so already. Start by tanking on the edge of the room. After the first dash, position yourselves so that Ventinax will be directly on top of the previous orb spawn location, or as close as you can get. After the second dash, move the boss into the middle of the room. This strategy will give players the opportunity to position themselves so that they only have to look in one direction to dodge orbs. This helps tremendously during the intermission phase. If your group does not finish the encounter during the recharge phase, you will have to try and move the boss back towards the previous orb spawns. Getting more orbs means paying attention to more directions, and it can get hectic very quickly. Try to avoid this. Fun fact, clicking the angel early allows multiple people to start flying immediately as opposed to waiting and getting queue locked. Kyrians, grab this spear, you will use it later. Now when your group goes to skip this pack, be sure to run over or jump over the brazier. If you run around it, you will pull the Hellion, and we do not want that. As for the next skip, sap, imprison, or mind soothe the warden and jump over the wall. If I can do it as a Volpera DK, you can do it too. Now this is where the route will alter. If you are unable to skip the warden pack at the top of the stairs, that is okay. You can pull them like normal, just be sure to skip the next double warden pack and go straight to the usurpers. If you were able to skip the stairs, this double warden Justicar pack can be tricky. You can choose to CC or pull it all together. Whatever you do, just be sure to never let the wardens cast Greater Mending or the Justicars to cast Forced Confession. The Usurper packs are also finicky when it comes to aggro, so try this tactic out. Everyone mount up, but let the tank go first. Counting to 5 should be enough time, but let the tank get into position before you start DPSing or healing. On fortified weeks, these mobs can global someone. This boss has many different intricacies and is one of the main reasons I advocate for the use of voice comms here. The fight itself is fairly easy as long as players stack up their Imperial ordnances and move out with Purifying Blast. When it comes to soaking, immunities are great, but so is the increased damage the boss takes. If you can, tanks should grab the first 4 orbs while DPS pops CDs. And then whoever doesn't have cooldowns or whoever has an immunity can soak the rest of the orbs, or as many as they can get. Just be sure no orbs reach the boss and no one player receives too many stacks. Rinse and repeat. If you are flying up to the final boss's platform, check to make sure you have at least 87.4% trash count. If you followed this route, you should be at 87.7, which is more than enough, but if you happen to miss something, 87.4% is the magic number. Now since my last video, I have switched up the order in which I pull these mobs, and for good reason. Pulling Lachesis first delays the number of spears needed to dodge, and honestly that's the hardest part up here. Sure, you gain the damaged increased dot, but there should not be any damage going out, aside from the tank. But this also means that the longer Astronos takes, the more deadly the aforementioned spears become. Speaking of Astronos, do your best to bait the spears against the far left wall while facing him. This will make it much simpler to dodge the pulses. For tanks in melee, the spear will always pulse a wave directly back towards the boss from where it lands. This means moving to the left or the right and you'll be safe. We got unlucky and got double melee spears here, so we had to move. Hey Kyrians, remember that spear you picked up? It's time to use it. Always use the spear on Klotos. During fortified weeks, it is not uncommon to use Bloodlust or Heroism here as well. If you made it this far, congratulations and thank you for sticking around. If you guys are enjoying this type of content, be sure to let me know by hitting that thumbs up button, sharing it with your friends, and of course, delicately pressing that subscribe button. It's free for you and it means everything to me. I appreciate all the support so far, but
enough of this gooey show of emotion.
Let's get back to it. Not too much to say about this boss in terms of tips and tricks. Dispel early and often, move to the edges early during intermission phases to grab orbs quickly, and that's about it. As of now, there is no downside to tanking the boss inside the shield bubble. The bubble only prevents damage from abyssal detonations, so yeah. No one should ever miss a bubble. I still tank the boss on the outside of the bubble, but I have a tank brain, so trust issues. But that's it for me guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something that you can take back to your group that will make your next Mythic Plus run more of a success. Until next time folks, stay frosty.